The old adage is go west, young man, and Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada is way west, where tonight Alex Ovechkin takes his first steps into GM place with the NHL on Comcast Sportsnet. Two nights ago, the remarkable Joe Sakic took a bow in Denver, but his hopes for an Avalanche victory were soon shattered. Brilliant net-minding from Ole Kolzig paved the way for the road-running Caps, who got the green light for a much-needed trip to the winner's circle. This evening's late-night escapades include a meeting with Marcus. The Canuck captain has mentored Twin Titans in Vancouver, where Roberto Luongo commits his latest larceny. So, raise your hands if you're ready for Caps Canucks on Comcast Sportsnet. Your weekend is well underway, so let us do some catching up. Comcast Sportsnet presents the NHL. Tonight we'll head into the wee hours with Washington's Capitals coming to call on Vancouver's Canucks. A very pleasant welcome to you. Along with Craig Laughlin, I'm Joe Beninati. For years and years now, the Washington Capitals have had the comfort of knowing they had Ole Kolzig in goal to back them up. And boy, did he ever do that well in Denver on Wednesday.
Well, if you look at all aspects of goaltending, from challenging, from playing your angles, from movement within the crease, it was A's across the board for Ole Kolzig against the Avs. Denying Slottos, denying Stastny, one of the better saves of the night. On the angles, he took away everything. Laxton had nothing to see. He didn't see any net behind Kolzig because of the challenge position. And when there was a juicy rebound, he was best sprawling across the crease. A wonderful full performance for Ole Kolzig. 45 saves, about a half of those coming in the third. He stopped 93% plus of the shots he faced. And he's one win away, if he gets it tonight against Vancouver, from tying Hall of Famer Ken Dryden in the wins column.
Ole's efforts were obviously pivotal in the opener of this road swing, and so too were the exploits of Alex Ovechkin.
Well, absolutely. He's excited to play here in Canada. He's brimming with enthusiasm. Against the Avs, a nice little snapshot short side with Zednik on the screen on the power play. He had a penalty shot opportunity because he was out there working the point against Kent Lee. Here's the shot. Just whistled that baby wide. It rolled a little bit on the end. He said this was one of his best hits of his young career. I loved it. Kabong. Smacked the glass out there in Denver. And then at the end, a lot of sigh of relief here after he was hit with a wrist shot on his foot. Tom Morrison, he's 100% tonight, fans.
Had to hold your breath there. Right around warm-up time, Glenn Hanlon gave us his initial thoughts when he saw Alex down.
I wasn't really concerned because I saw the shot and I knew that what was going on. At first, when he went down, maybe I thought there was a chance he could have caught a rut or something. But after I realized what he was okay. And we've seen Ovi when he gets shots or something like that. It takes a lot more than that to keep him down. So we weren't too concerned.
The whole city of Vancouver wishes they could have a ticket to see Alex play this evening. And those who are fortunate enough to be here, they know that this place can be a tough place to visit.
Including tonight and the next two after tonight. It's been a tough road for the Caps. 10 wins in their 29 visits to the next three opponents. At Delange, 3 wins in the last 9. At Vancouver, 4 wins the last 10. They have not played here since March of 03, a 6-0 loss. At the Oil, it's always tough. In Calgary, one of the best playing on their home ice.
2 days of dreary weather here in Vancouver haven't shown this city's best side, but I think you can take it for granted that things will be sunnier for the Canucks now that they have Roberto Luongo in goal.
Well, if it's cloudy or sunny, it doesn't matter. Roberto Luongo is one of the best in the business at his trade, minding the cage. He's big, he's imposing, he challenges. When he plays aggressively, he's at his best. He's off to a 6-3-1 start. His last win against Chicago, they were a little depleted for that game, 5-0. He picked up his 28th career shutout. He owns from the Caps last year. He was a perfect 7-0, Joe.
And Craig, he comes to British Columbia with a summer blockbuster trade.
It was a big trade by Dave, known as the GM here. Big one, June 23rd. They sent Big Bert, all the goaltender, and a fine defenseman in Allen to Florida.
He rules the defensive zone, and these two redheads light up the offense.
Wow, these two Swedes have certainly come into their own. 26 years of age for the Sedin twins in their 6th season. Daniel more of a sniper, Henrik more of a finish, more of a passer. This is two guys that Vigneault relies on heavily to be a catalyst for their offense.
And it wouldn't be right to forget Marcus Naslund in any game preview, the Canucks' best goal scorer ever. He matches his works against a flurry from Alex Ovechkin on Comcast Sportsnet. Just 4 games going on in the NHL this Friday night, and this will be the nightcap from GM Place in Vancouver. On Comcast Sportsnet, Joe Beninati and Craig Laughlin with you. And these officials tonight, Steve Kazari, who we saw in Denver a couple nights ago, teaming up with Brad Watson, the linesman, or Lonnie Cameron, and Vaughn Rohde. Glenn Hanlon back in a city that he knows very well, Craig Laughlin, as we set up our netminders duel.
From one goaltender to two that are playing tonight. And for the Washington Capitals, they go back to Ole Kolzig. Take a look at his numbers. Pretty impressive. He moved his save percentage to .901, one below 500 in his career. Roberto Luongo, 6-3-1 in 10 starts. Career versus the Caps. He's got sparkling numbers.
He sure does. Ryan Kessler digging in against Dynas Zubris, and we are underway in Vancouver. The Canucks here at home playing just their 3rd home game of the season, dressed in the retro uniforms in dark blue. Fitzpatrick, formerly in Buffalo, works to the front trying to find Green, a one-time Cap. And Washington works away with Richard Zednik in charge. Good forecheck on the turnover. Cook with a blazer that's blocked by Sean Morrison.
Well, Matt Cook's often a catalyst for this Vancouver team, Joe. He's a water bug out there. He flies around. He creates turnovers, and that's what he's done early.
Green looking for Kessler. He was occupied by Zubris. Morrison snaps it around the dasher and back onto the Canucks side. Both teams in the midst of a shift change, still in the first minute of the first period, as Green just layers it below the goal line. Morrison shimmying away from the pressure. Taylor Pyatt, who's had a wonderful start to October, turns, looks to the front for Daniel Sedin. It came all the way through. Matthias Olin on the way, and Daniel Sedin deflected it wide. Brian Pothier, averaging better than 27 minutes per game, watching as Bradley scoops it on to center. Quick indirect. Pothier just getting back. Pyatt closing in, and he snapped it wide. Matt Pettinger able to clear. He was throttled pretty good by Bieksa.
Well, it looks like that's their game plan for Vancouver, is take the body and really have some get up and go in their first game back home after an extended road trip.
They haven't played here since October 16th. They're offside on the rush, and it allows us to spell out some of the keys to the contest.
Well, for the Caps, they've got to loosen Louis up. They gain some volumes of pucks, and they got to look for scrambles in front of them. They've got to slide into third, Joe. The third man positioning is going to be imperative because this Vancouver team have good get up and go, and they like to attack an odd man. For the Canucks, bring it home. They're coming back home. They have to be solid. And doormat. I'm talking about Matthias Olin. Look for the matchup tonight. Olin versus the Cap superstar Ovechkin.
Welcoming him to Vancouver for the first time in his young career. And here he is. Ovechkin looking for Clark. The pass that doesn't connect. Finnish-born Sammy Salo propels it back over the blade of Marcus Naslund. Eminger on a regroup. Puts it all the way down. And when this is touched up by Krejcik, you'll hear the whistle for icing.
And notice Vigneault, the new coach of Vancouver, not too worried. Olin was not out there. They had Salo out there against Ovechkin. There's a look at Alain Vigneault. The newly hired coach here in Vancouver takes over for the Crow. Mark Crawford, who moved on to Los Angeles, is in his 5th season as an NHL coach. Earlier on, that's about 3 or 4 years ago, since he's been a head bench boss, he's been down in the American Hockey League.
He taps the Sedin line again right quick. Daniel and Henrik working with Taylor Pyatt. Dynas Zubris' trio out there for Washington. Daniel Sedin for Henrik. and it's squeezed by Kolzig at the knee.
Well, the two Twins are very sneaky and have excellent puck skills and vision. That was a nice pass into a very small area that he had to put it.
Craig, they are both very good passers. Why is that?
Well, I just think they have great vision, Joe. They always have their head up. They played in Sweden for so many years, well tutored over in the Swedish Elite League and in junior hockey over there. And they've come over here, and it's taken some while to mature. Remember, they're in their 6th year. They're 26 years of age. To me, they're at their prime time right now to really rack up the points for Vancouver.
We caught up with star forward Marcus Naslund and asked him about the Twins, and Naslund said, you know, they feel like they belong now. All of a sudden that this is their place, and they are going to be a threat even more so this year than last when they put up some big numbers.
Well, the third guy on the line is often the lottery winner, whether it was Henson Carter last year, who led this team in goals, or this season early on, Hyatt, who's played very well with the two guys.
We're scoreless in Vancouver. Washington game 2 of the 4-game road swing. The Caps are dressed in white. Donald Brashear working down the alleyway. Brashear off of his most effective game of the season, I think you'd agree with me, against the Avalanche.
Because he got in there. He got in there first. He moved his feet. That's when he's effective.
Brashear finding Rico Fata. Fata tried to bump set it there for Green, who was joining the rush, and that pass never materialized. Here comes Cook with speed. Matt Cook, no angle. Heward runs him into the corner. Then gets some support. Olin fires. Pad save Kolzig, and the rebound trickled through the crease with Kessler right there in front. Ryan Kessler, former college hockey product out of Ohio State. They work the cycle game for Green. Lassoed there. Too much so. It's going to be a holding call against Klepish. As Ednick makes a touch-up, Washington goes a man short.
Well, once they get buzzing, it's too hard to contend with the speed of the Vancouver Canucks. Remember, in years past, this used to be the wild West Coast Express out here in Vancouver. They've changed their style a little bit, but it's been all Vancouver early on, and there you see the hold behind the net. As a centerman, you're working down low to control their centerman, and that's a play that costs Klepish a minor penalty for holding.
Pothier and Morrison in back for the Caps defensively, protecting Kolzig. Brian Sotheby will take this draw against Brendan Morrison. Matt Pettinger joins him out there as a penalty killer. And we remember Pettinger a season ago being a dangerous shorthanded goal threat.
And the Caps penalty killing is one of the bright spots. You look at their specialty teams, it's been very solid. Their penalty kill, the last 3 games, Joe, has killed 18 of the 21 times short.
Morrison using the glass, Craig, to get it back to center, and that's where Salo will reverse. Sammy Salo has an incredible slap shot from the point. Marcus Naslund looking to create along with Krejcik. Back behind the goal, there's Morrison. 443 consecutive starts for Morrison. He hasn't missed a game in more than 5 years.
We've seen Ironmen in back-to-back games. Remember Strastins with the Avalanche the other night.
His streak is the longest. Salo straight away. Rister knocked down by Kolzig. Naslund was right there on top of the crease. Didn't deposit the backhander. Manpower advantage for Vancouver in the blue. Another 60 seconds. They have to turn and fetch.
And this is one area of their game that they may miss a guy like Bertuzzi. Bertuzzi was excellent at puck control down low. And once he establishes position in the paint or just outside the crease, you can't move that guy.
The Caps rarely play Vancouver, but when they did and when they had power plays going, Bertuzzi helped them score what felt like 1,000,000 goals. At a point position, it's Henrik Sedin, one of the league's leaders in assists. Eminger is there in the corner, gets help from Kleimer. Brushed on back for Olin. 30 seconds in the power play for Vancouver. A slap pass, knocked down. Bieksa at one point position. Olin the other, that was head high. Eminger chisels it to the glass. Zednik in hot pursuit, and Richard Zednik will fly away. This is a potential 2-on-1. Zednik will chip move, and Olin and Bieksa got back to cover. Henrik Sedin for the Canucks. The Caps will get Klepish back in 3 seconds. Daniel Sedin on the advance. Leaves it for his twin brother. Zubris was parked in the way. Klepish is out of the box, and the Caps are back to 5-on-5. Rory Fitzpatrick legs it down for Vancouver, but coughed it up. Zubris, using his size and strength, swivels one right through the crease. That'll chase Pothier back onto the Washington side. At the line, he didn't wait long enough. It is offside against the Capitals. We are 6 minutes and 6 seconds deep. Ovechkin and friends in Vancouver. On Comcast Sportsnet, first and only meeting for the Caps with the Canucks. Last year, Henrik Sedin almost had 60 assists. This year on the Toyota League leaderboard, he's on a better pace than that.
He certainly is. As a pivot, he's racking up the points. You check out the assist leaders. Thornton, number 1. Sedin and Yager tied. Daniel Briere in Buffalo, who never lose, it seems, right up there. So these are two guys, not only Henrik, but Daniel's also got equal points with 14. There are two guys that the Caps have to watch tonight.
Let's keep going on that Buffalo storyline. Daniel Briere and the Sabres at 10-0. Why?
Well, just because of the speed. They've really done a good job as Darcy Regier as the general manager, getting the players in place, and they're playing Lindy Ruff hockey. Remember, Lindy Ruff was a tough customer. He played abrasively. All those guys have speed, and they play tough without taking penalties.
Just a spectacular start from them. They'll have a chance to go for an NHL record as we watch the Canucks and Caps this evening at GM Place. Trevor Linden on the dump down. Heward is there, bracing himself for the hit. Teams are at full and even strength, 5-on-5. The Caps have survived the first power play opportunity of the night for Vancouver. Linden shovels it into the corner, but Burrows was in ahead of the play, and that's offside. Donald Brashear, a former Canuck, returning to Vancouver. So many of the members in the Caps traveling party with connections to this city.
Yeah, you go through the players, you go through the GM, you go through the coach. It's just a wild range of people. Pettinger, Morris, and Beach all coming back out west. They're excited because, remember, we haven't played out here since '03. A lot of these young players for the Caps never had the opportunity to play in their homeland and play on home ice here in Vancouver.
Morrison and Pettinger practically had their own cheering sections in the building tonight. More on that as this game progresses. Kessler spins. Kleppish stays with him. Jacob Kleppish knew at the outset of this trip that his defensive responsibilities were going to be paramount. Working on a line with Alexander Semin and Richard Zedman.
And he's got to work better on angling rather than grabbing. Remember, even last game against Denver, too many holding penalties down low, trying to control the opposition center. It's imperative to have body position, then you aren't going to be taking those penalties.
Pothier rakes it into the Canucks zone, and Matthias Ohlund is ready to set sail. Ohlund working in back with Kevin Bieksa. Dynast Zubris matched up with Matt Cook, and Zubris plays a little keep away with him. Eminger on the rush. Ohlund is right there. His head coach Alain Vigneault says Ohlund has all the makeup of a #1 stud defender.
Solid two-way guy that can also add offense.
Zubris lowering that shoulder. Powers out of the corner. Finds the open man in Eminger. That pass was thieved by Naslund for a second. Ovechkin to the front quickly, blocked away. Eminger using the lip of the boards, and Bieksa will feel the sting from Clark.
There's already been just about halfway through this first, Joe, and there's only been 3 shots fired. They all by Vancouver. The Caps have yet to register one on Luongo. That may be a good thing.
Here's an opportunity for Ovechkin. He buzzed it wide. Ovechkin finishes his check on the Canuck captain Naslund.
And it seems like it may be a better thing because remember all the rubber the Caps threw at Luongo last year. Seems like he gets better when he sees more rubber.
Those were exactly the words of Glenn Hanlon earlier in the day. He said that Luongo does get better as his workload increases.
Well, maybe that's a game plan. No shots.
Shots on goal after 60 minutes.
You better get one at the end.
Yeah, after 60 minutes, shots on goal 3. Sallow tries to bunt it ahead. Bradley was muddying up the water there with Sotheby. Pettinger continues the forecheck as we move 9 minutes deep in the first period with the NHL on Comcast Sportsnet. Joe Beninati and Craig Laughlin with you in Vancouver. Daniel Sedin off for Henrik. Henrik hooks, tries to return it to his twin, and Sotheby was expecting that. Daniel Sedin plays it down low. Hyatt, who registered a hat trick against the Caps a season ago in Buffalo, gets sandwiched behind the goal. Henrik Sedin put some sauce on that, and waiting for it was Sean Morrison. Pothier heaves it high on the glass. Krychek kept it in beautifully. Taylor Pyatt for Bieksa, and he fumbled. Glenn Hanlon wants to change him up. So too Alain Vigneault. Bieksa will take his sweet time. Mark Chouinard will roll out of his own zone. Got away from Beach. Another BC native for Luc Bourdon. Green matching up with him. Bourdon, the 19-year-old, on the Vancouver back line with Willie Mitchell out injured.
Yeah, Willie Mitchell is still banged up with a concussion. Not sure when he's going to return.
Burrows sneaking out of that corner. Beach was lying in wait. Fata there to help. And the Caps are away with Brashear one-on-one. Donald Brashear, snapshot wide of Luongo. And then this one is punched off the rink. Just past the halfway mark of period number 1, and still looking for the first red light in Vancouver. He still looks tough to beat, even in green and blue. That's Roberto Luongo manning the twines for the Vancouver Canucks in their throwback uniforms, and was he ever good last year?
Wow, look at those numbers, 7-0, 949. But you've got to remember, as you look at his nice numbers against the Caps, that prior to last season, he was below 500 against the Caps at 6-9-3. When asked this morning why he thought he had the Caps numbers, he just said, I don't know. The one thing I do know is I want to be aggressive against the skill guys on the Caps.
We've got a little bit of a glass problem here at GM Place. It's going to give us a little bit of a delay with no score in this first period. And Craig, we mentioned how good Luongo was against the Caps a season ago. There was one Washington player who figured him out.
Who you wouldn't expect, and that was Chris Clark, grinding forward for the Caps. Nice little dipsy-do there. Some skill on that play and depositing it 5-hole. Ovechkin sets him up. A backhand that rings the pipe and eludes the goaltender. And then a power move following up on a deke and tapping her home. Notice on those plays, Roberto Luongo is down, and there's a lot of scrums going on. That's what the Capitals have to do against this big netminder.
Not very many players have bagged a hat trick against Roberto Luongo, but there's the list.
And it's a pretty impressive list. Clark, Yager, Thornton, Yannick Panet, Perreault, Tanguay, Boshinsky, who just got sent down and was traded, right, recently.
He can't get a break.
No.
Roberto Luongo, I was looking around his locker stall today earlier in the day, and he's got 4 different sets of catching gloves and blocking gloves because they're wearing these retro jerseys so often. But if you'll notice, he does not have the right color scheme pads on. He had a green and blue pair of pads he used for 2 periods in the season opener, gave up a couple of quick goals and said never again. The live action resumes more than halfway through the opening period. On Comcast Sportsnet with you tonight. Washington playing Vancouver this evening. They'll be at Rexall Place to challenge the Oilers on Saturday. Zubris kicks it ahead. Here comes Chris Clark, 3-on-2. Ovechkin, curl and drag, backhander, stonewall by Luongo.
I think the fans are cheering not only for Luongo, but they're excited to see the Caps Ovechkin.
Green bombs away, stop. Ovechkin turned the rebound wide. Luongo had Ovechkin's number last year, and look at Ovechkin with his head up to the roof and then his eyes down to the ice. Luongo answers the first challenge this evening.
And it's good speed by Ovechkin. Starts with a hit along the boards, and Josh Green, the former Cap, off to the races. Nice 3-on-2 execution. Watch Clark drop it, curl and drag, see you later. And then the deep to the backhand. Couldn't foil Luongo. Luongo's reach is extraordinary, much like Ole Kolzig. When he flashes out that leg, there's no room. OV had to put it up and over the pad, but in tight circumstances, too tough.
The man is an octopus. He's an octopus. Ovechkin had 2 on him in his first meeting against Florida with the Caps a season ago. After that, in the next 6, he was whitewashed. Beach bumped into by Bieksa. Alexander Semin, who leads the Caps in the early going with 8 markers. Boots it free. Marcus Naslund takes it back. Naslund from board to board, right on the mark for Jan Bulis. Bulis fires, and a toe stop for Kolzig. And Ole says stop right there.
Marcus Naslund to the former Cap, Jan Bulis, and a good slap shot against Ole Kolzig, but it was from long range and no traffic in front. Here you see Bulis, a slap shot, and the papers around here, some of the critics and the media saying he's in the doghouse. I asked him that this morning. He says, yeah, maybe I'm in a little bit in the doghouse. He's not racking up the points, and when Vigneault talked to the press this morning, he said he wants more consistency out of Jan Bulis and his game.
He went on to say that we feel like he's motivated properly. He just has to compete. I think we've heard that in a few other cities, too.
You can run that clip anywhere.
Just over 8 minutes to go in a scoreless first period. Taylor Pyatt Centering pass to nobody in particular, and Bradley charges back with it. Pettinger dodging the hit of Bourdon. Bradley kept occupied there by Daniel Sedin. Daniel and Henrik, part of Sweden's Olympic gold medal winner in Torino, continuing to grow up in their NHL careers and blossoming into true offensive threats.
And they're starting to use their physical attributes. As Vino talked this morning, Joe, they're getting stronger. They're maturing not only as players, but as men. You look at even strength points around the NHL. How about that Affinigenoff in Buffalo? Is he dazzling? Sedin's right behind him.
It's a Vancouver team that has just won for its last 17 on the power play, so those Twins had better be on best behavior at even strength. As it is a 0-0 score at GM Place in Vancouver, British Columbia. The NHL continuing on Comcast Sportsnet as we are pleased to welcome in our viewers checking us out this evening in Philadelphia, PA. The Caps and Vancouver, an interconference matchup. Krejcik with a blast, pulls it with a stop. Morrison funnels the rebound to the front. Bulis! He scores! Jan Bulis.
Amazing how quickly you can go from the doghouse to the penthouse. But that's the game of hockey in professional sports. Now all of a sudden the fans in love with Jan Bulis. The media is going to be in love with him. And the coach is probably going to love him a lot more. He gives the Canucks a 1-0 lead. Good transition. I talked about the third man high as one of the keys, and that's a good shot by Morrison. Morrison sticks with it. A backhand saucer that eludes two guys in white. That's a wonderful pass, and that shot just squeaks through the body of Ole Kolzig. Bulis gives Vancouver a 1-0 lead.
And that'll irritate Ole. He doesn't like those leaky goals that gets just squirming a little bit across that goal line through him, putting Vancouver onto the lead. Jamie Heward teamed up with Mike Green and back for the white sweatered Capitals if you're just checking in with us. Vancouver here at home in the retro sweaters in dark blue. Donald Brashear, the one-time Canuck, layers it into the corner. Matthias Olin clamps onto it. Around for Burrows, beautiful outlet for Chouinard, and away comes Vancouver with Trevor Linden. Linden walking in, fires, and he missed it to the far post.
And the Vancouver Canucks on the board first. It's not been the case early on this season. The Caps have not fallen behind too often. They've scored first, Joe, in 5 of the 8 games to date. It's going to be interesting to see how they respond with Vancouver up 1-0.
Steve Eminger propelling it back to center. As Beach moves, Zednik accelerates in, but this is a penalty call for interference behind the play.
And it's going to go against the Caps. There's the big X of the arms. That's interference. I think it was the knock of the sticks by Mike Green, so he'll have a seat. The youngest player in the Caps lineup tonight and on their roster. There's the little hook right there. As the Canucks try to enter the zone with speed, Green has a seat. PP upcoming for Vancouver.
Bulis is second of the year at 12:47 from Morrison and Krejcik. 1-0 for the locals. They look to enhance their lead now with a power play. Ryan Pothier tumbles it back, and Pettinger will take it. Crisply around the dasher. Sammy Salo hits the rewind button with Lukas Krejcik. As Henrik Sedin moves in, the timing of the play is off and offside.
How can it be off with Twins? Henrik threw Daniel offside because he held onto the puck a little too long. He knows it. He pulled it across. These guys are just identical twins. They do everything the same, Joe. They get the same points. They're 2 stars here in Vancouver.
Amazing training regimen in the offseason. They are workout fiends. Henrik Sedin finding Daniel off into the corner, channeled there by Pothier. Daniel Sedin plays to the point for Krejcik. Looking rink wide for Salo. As Sotheby steps out, Krejcik pumps it towards the goal, knocked down by Morrison, and he will backhand it to safety. Krejcik and Salo in back for this Vancouver team that just finished a 5-game road swing, taking 3 of the last 4. Chris Clark in a penalty-killing role for Washington, a man short another 70 seconds. Salo waits. Henrik comes to get it. Good work by Clark on the perimeter. Aggressive penalty kill here for Washington. Henrik Sedin brushed it back. Salo for Krejcik. Henrik Sedin with plenty of time to operate. Daniel on the goal line looking for Pyatt. He had his stick lifted. Another penalty call coming against the Caps. Luongo's on the bench. Salo bombs away, and Kolzig shrugged it aside. Delayed penalty call against Washington, so this is 6-on-4. Salo. Henrik Sedin on the outside. Sedin to the front. Score!
Loving life, playing on the power play and playing on the line with the Twins. This one ricocheted off his leg or maybe the shaft of his stick, but he's going to get credit for the goal. Watch the work down low. There's the hard shot across, and Pyatt, number 9 in front with Morrison draped all over him, somehow hits a piece of him and just trickles past Ole Kolzig. One more look. Sedin throws it across in mid-air. It hits part of his stick and deflects in. 2-0 Canucks here in the first.
Taylor Pyatt, who was acquired from Buffalo for a 4th-round pick, has picked up his 6th of the season. Washington is being outshot by Vancouver 9-1 and outscored by 2 in the early going.
That insult to injury, since that other penalty was still in the box, he came out, but Morrison was still nailed with his minor, so he has to sit. So it's 5-on-4. Still a power play for the Vancouver Canucks.
Morrison sends in Bula, strolling right on in, and the kick-out save was a good one by Kolzig, or else.
And he wanted a trip there, wasn't going to get it from the referee. Ole threw out his stick. It's amazing how wide open he was on that side of the rink.
Naslund flying in. Naslund fires, and Kolzig is doing his best Denver impression right now, with Vancouver just buzzing. Matthias Olin on a power play for the Canucks in the dark blue. Morrison, a good playmaker, to the captain Naslund, playing hide-and-seek behind the cage. Marcus Naslund finds Kevin Bieksa.
And Ole Kolzig didn't buy it. He's trying to get him to move.
Deflection try Morrison to the glass. Eminger along the boards, and Sotheby will get it out. 1:10 to go in the minor penalty to Sean Morrison. Eminger is there. A roughing called to Morrison, putting him in the box. Olin closing in through the seam, and Clymer had a stick in the way. Naslund doesn't pull the trigger. Olin will. Glove save, Kolzig.
Great stop by Ole Kolzig there. Olin sneaky as he comes in from the point. Morrison still 46 seconds left on the minor penalty. Ole Kolzig has had to keep this Caps team in. Here's Naslund, a little pass to Olin. There's that shot. Nifty little leather save there by the Caps' big guy.
Matthias Olin checking out his handiwork, and even better said Ole's catching glove work on a brand new scoreboard here at GM Place, which is absolutely spectacular, by the way.
Anything would be spectacular for $5 million. Pretty impressive.
On the fly, Krejcek looking to lead Pyatt into the zone. Kolzig plays the boards. Daniel Sedin shovels to the corner. Pyatt again matched up with Heward. 2-0 Vancouver. Krejcek. Sedin to Henrik. There's Daniel. Walking the goal line. Pyatt in front, trying to redirect that home. Salo swats it below the goal line. Daniel Sedin waits. Sean Morrison out of the penalty box right now. Back to full strength of the Caps, trailing by 2 on the road. Second game of a 4-game road swing, the longest of the season. Daniel Sedin back behind the cage to Henrik. Marked by Pothier. Morrison got there ahead of Pyatt. Pettinger would like a whistle. The Caps are dog-tired here. Pettinger still trying to stall. Referees asking him to move it, and they do. Morrison sets sail. Didn't get that dump in very deep.
And that's little details to the game when you're playing on the road. Even if you're dog-tired, you've got to get it in deep. You've got to make them move a full 200 feet down the ice. Those type of turnovers can come back to haunt you.
Green hammers one right on. No worries for Kolzig. Joe Beninati and Craig Laughlin with you from GM Place on Comcast Sportsnet, where the Canucks are 2 better than the Caps. showing off in front of their home fans for just the third time in the first 3 weeks. 9 of their first 11 games away from home. You get a good look at Kessler. Finding Green to the front. Cook jammed it wide. This is domination right now. Zubris fighting through Bieksa, and he'll plop it back onto the Vancouver side. Semin wipes out at the line. Whoa. And Ovechkin says hi to Luongo. We'll step away. Late period 1 with the Canucks on top by 2. Jan Boulis and Taylor Pyatt have the goals for Vancouver, and Alexander Ovechkin Locker definitely throws himself into his work.
He certainly does. The Caps looking for their second shot. There he is trying to get that puck off of Olin. The quick spin, and then the toe pick, and he wipes out into Louis, as they call him. Roberto Luongo against Ovechkin. A big matchup here, the Caps versus Vancouver.
See that one on his sweater? That's exactly as many saves as he has in the game so far. 1. As the Caps are being outshot badly. A lopsided scoreboard there, 13-1. 1:15 away from a Pulte Holmes intermission report are we on Comcast Sportsnet.
And sometimes shots don't indicate what type of period. In this case, it does. The Caps have had an inability to get over the Vancouver blue line. That end may not even need a Zamboni.
They haven't had the puck very often. At least under control. Canucks do again. Trevor Linden, the all-time point-scoring leader here in Vancouver. Someday that number 16 will be in the rafters at GM Place.
Tough night for him. And the other night, first time he was ever a healthy scratch.
Clark hits the seam and backhands it wide. Then he got mauled, and we're going to see a penalty.
And it should be Olin for the hole, but I think they're nailing Clark for the goalie interference.
We saw referee Kozari come up with the interference call. And if that's the case, you would think at least half of this equation is goalie interference.
But Olin grabbed him over the left shoulder. That's why the Caps captain and yours truly up here can't believe the call. At least make it coincidental minor penalties. Watch Clarkey get a step on Olin. Watch Olin's arm right there. Just a little shot from behind. Knocks him right into the goaltender, and Clarkey tries to drive the net. He does, and he wipes out their netminder.
So late here in this opening frame, as we look at it from a reverse angle, Luongo shows it up a little bit with that collision. But Chris Clark finds himself in the penalty box with 40 seconds to go in the first, and it's a first period that has to be alarming somewhat to Glenn Hanlon.
And the good positives are that they won in Denver the other night, and it was the same scenario. The Avalanche had way too many power plays. They survived and got back into the game. Now it's catch-up again here in Vancouver.
It was a 1-1 game after 20 minutes at Pepsi Center. It's 2-0 now for Vancouver and a threat to make it more. Boulis keeps it on the outside for Naslin. Salo hammers it right on. Stick save Kolzig as the screen sort of dissolved. 15 seconds to go. Naslin to the front. Morrison was right there. Salo keeps it on the outside. Naslin with 6 seconds to operate. Naslin calls his own number. Kick out save. Follow-up chance, and Kolzig got that one too on Krejcik. A dominant first period for Vancouver comes to its conclusion. And the blue-sweatered Canucks hear the cheers after outscoring Washington by 2. Our Pulte Holmes intermission report's coming up real soon for you on Comcast Sportsnet. We'll be heading back to the sports desk in just a few moments. I'll have a chance to chat with Vice President and General Manager George McPhee. Locker and I go through some numbers and some highlights with you if you stay there with us. So the Caps are on their way to the dressing room. Ovechkin with the best chance and only shot of the period as the Caps find themselves down by 2. Here's Dave Johnson. Sounds hard to believe, but Alex Ovechkin was 15 years old the last time the Washington Capitals beat the Vancouver Canucks. To do so tonight, they'll have to come from behind. It's 2-0 Van after 20 minutes on Comcast Sportsnet. This is the Pulte Holmes Intermission Report. Joe Beninati with the Caps Vice President and General Manager George McPhee. George, thanks for stopping by. Almost 10 games into the season. Take this first period out of the equation for a second. The overview, your perspective on the first month.
Well, I sure like the way we're playing. I like the way we competed in training camp, and I liked the results of our preseason games. I like our team speed. We're scoring some goals. We've been getting good goaltending. Our defense needs some work, and if we can improve there a little bit, we'll be in pretty good shape.
I know when you return to this terrific city, there have to be so many great memories for you. How did your time here shape the manager you've become?
Well, it was a great experience working with Pat Quinn. Had some real good teams here, won a couple of division titles, went to the Stanley Cup Finals in '94 and almost won it. And that certainly helped when, my first year in Washington, when we had the nice run in '98. You know that different players play different ways in different series, and ultimately, they all have to play well at some point to go the distance. But it was a great experience working with Pat, and everything I've seen in Washington, I saw here.
And time flies, now 10 seasons for you with the Washington Capitals. Our broadcast is going into the Philadelphia market tonight. Have to get your reaction on Bobby Clarke stepping down.
Well, I was really surprised and disappointed because I think he's one of the best that's ever been. I certainly admire Bob Clarke a lot. Love his style, says what he thinks, and I don't know that there's been a better combination of a player that was so good for the game and a manager that's been so good for the game. I think he's far too young to basically walk away. I think he's got a lot to offer the game, and I hope that he comes back because he's been great.
George, I wish we had more time. We have about 15 seconds. Tell us about Nicholas Backstrom.
Outstanding player, really happy we selected him. He's playing very well. I'll probably see him at Christmas at the World Junior Tournament and then at the Sweden Games and the World Championships later in the year. Gifted player, playmaker, scoring a lot and great on faceoffs, and that's something we could use.
Just one of many prospects in the pipeline. George, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Joby.
That is George McPhee. We'll have more between periods 1 and 2 in the Pulte Holmes Intermission Report. Craig Laughlin joins me on the other side. We'll go through the highlights for Vancouver. 5 different Washington Capitals scored on Wednesday in the win over the Colorado Avalanche. No goals to speak of so far this evening in Vancouver. The Canucks have the advantage by 2 thanks to tallies from Boulis and Pyatt. And Laka, we're about to look at them as part of our Geico highlights.
And Jan Boulis, one of the sharpshooters for Vancouver, he had 3 of their shots in that first period. Nice little save right there. Morrison stays with him. How about this saucer of a backhand? Goes right to Boulis, and he just fires it, and it goes through the body of Ole Kolzig. That gave Vancouver a 1-0 lead.
That's Boulis' second of the season, and less than 3 minutes later, they were at it again.
And Sedin's working with Pyatt. Pyatt's just a big rig. You can't corral him. Reminds me of Clark Gillies, mostly because of his size and wearing number 9. But how about that deflection out of midair on the high-rising saucer?
Close your eyes when you look at the Volvo. Well, that's hard to do. Don't look at the Volvo games. Oh, we don't want you to do that. 16-1 shot.
And how about scoring chances? 18-3, and that 3's pretty generous. Faceoffs 10-8 Canucks. The Caps had more hits, so that's a positive. No power plays or power play shots, of course.
Rock and roll hockey star Alexander Ovechkin coming to town, but there are plenty of Matt Pettinger supporters.
Well, Petty had a lot of time when he was on the IR to make up these signs for tonight, Joe. He brought him in his suitcase. Ovechkin, I came to see Matt Pettinger. And what a game he had in his first game back in Denver, place that he played some college hockey. He had 2 helpers in the Caps win the other night.
He did. His parents, Lori and Rick, are hosting about 40 people in an executive suite, in a luxury box that they've leased here at GM Place tonight.
I hope Matt picks up the bill. If he doesn't, I'm going to tell him to.
I can tell you one thing, though, Craig. He has not sent any hors d'oeuvres our way here in the booth.
We've got a few hors d'oeuvres up here. Desserts, though.
We definitely have after-game desserts. Ryan Sotheby, legs churning, working with Pettinger at the line. A delayed offside, now washed out as Pettinger tags up. Just getting started in the second period on Comcast Sportsnet. Comcast Sportsnet Mid-Atlantic and Philadelphia with us tonight. Washington Capitals hockey against the Canucks in the dark sweaters. Salo comes straight away for Krychek through the screen. That caught the glass. Still 40 seconds left in the minor penalty to Chris Clark for goalie interference late in period 1. Salo, who had a helper in the first. Henrik Sedin shown the door there. Matt Bradley golfs it all the way back. Roberto Luongo, such a difficult assignment last year for the Capitals when he was in Florida. Now manning the net for Vancouver. The Canucks started the year at 6-4-1 despite all their road trips. Washington into play tonight at 3-2-3. Oland and Bieksa in back. Clark out of the penalty box in 3 seconds. High on the glass, no chance for Kolzig to slow that down. Bieksa finding Morrison, deep slot. Naslin's wrister was spoiled. Didn't have a lot of starch on it anyway. Bieksa, the 25-year-old Ontario native. For Morrison. Now Oland muffled by Clark. Caps have just not been able to get out of their own way tonight. Morrison looking back behind the cage. Some tap passing to Marcus Naslund.
It's a forechecking clinic already in this hockey game.
On a give and go, Morrison, great pass. Naslund too sharp an angle. Back to the front, and Bulis had a tap in if he kept his eyes on the puck.
And Ole can't believe it. He's just shaking in the net, but they're going to take, I think, a goalie penalty here. It's going to be a hooking call, and I think the Caps and Ole are going to go to the power play.
Referee Brad Watson working with Steve Kazari. And the infraction will be a hook at 2:04.
It's exactly what the Caps need. Bulis will have a seat. There's former Cap Jan Bulis, who's on the scoreboard tonight, shaking his head. He was in the doghouse the other night for taking a penalty, but it was a mouth penalty as he hooked Fata there. A little bit too much lip to Mick McGill. Had to sit out the whole third period. He was benched.
Alain Vigneault, the head coach for Vancouver, sitting number 38 down. Alexander Semin springs Dinas Zubris. Krajcek is a wonderful skater. Zednik is there, soccer style for Ovechkin. Alexander Ovechkin got ripped off by Alex Burrows, and the young winger will clear. Alex Burrows, parts of 3 different years in the East Coast Hockey League. More and more we're seeing those guys funnel their way and filter their way through to the NHL.
I think a big part of that is when you play down there's a lot of limits on players and stuff, and you play a lot, which makes you a better player in the long run.
Pothier to the cage, patted aside by Luongo. Roberto Luongo comes in off of a shutout performance. He egged Chicago with 32 stops on Wednesday. That's the way you want to finish up a road trip. Semin connecting with Beach. He strides in. Ovechkin to the front for Zednik. Wipeout. Sammy Sello gliding through neutral and puttering it into the corner as Bulis serves another 45 seconds. This is Jamie Heward deliberately to center with Green. Mike Green with goals in back-to-back games. Ovechkin has goals in 3 straight. Roaring in on Bieksa. Ovechkin protecting it well. Finds Beach. Clark is next. Beach again. 18 seconds in the power play, and Green lost his footing and the puck.
And toe pick once again by Green. There's been a couple of Caps toe pick in this game. Pretty good penalty kill by the Vancouver Canucks, but they've been good the first 11 games. In 6 of the first 11, Joe, they have not allowed a power play marker.
On the turn, Zubris right on in. He got lassoed down. Another penalty call against Vancouver.
And that's exactly what you have to do. You have to go with speed. Dinas Zubris, speed and strength. And he's going to draw the holding call. So back-to-back power plays upcoming for the Washington Capitals. Here's Dinas with the step on Bieksa. And he hauls him down as he tried to move laterally. He knew he had to drive the net in a straight line. If he would have swerved away, that penalty probably wouldn't have been called, but he went to the net. That puts Bieksa into the box.
Dinas Zubris stays out there and wins the draw. Alexander Semin and Brian Pothier work the power play points. Semin, one-timer, swallowed up by Burrows. Semin tries it again, and Burrows blocked that. And then one hands it out. 4.5 gone by in the second period. Score the same as it was after 1. 2-0 Vancouver. The markers coming compliments of Bulis and Pyatt for the home-standing Canucks in the blue sweaters. Kolzig with the marching orders for Pothier as Vigneault changes up his penalty killers. Bieksa serves another 125. Pothier teaming up with Semin. Oh, close line by Oland.
And Oland was looking at the referee to see if there was going to be a penalty. None called. Oland stepped right on the slithering Semin as he tried to get over the blue line.
Semin is so good at making people miss. Oland didn't miss him there. Zubris full throttle, trying to come through again, and it was Olin teaming up with Salo. A couple of big bodies on the back line.
I like the way those two play together. One guy tries to step up, the other guy moves back in a support position, but both of the guys trying to kabong guys that are coming with speed.
It's the tandem. It's the Malachi crunch. 2-0 for Vancouver. Bieksa, another blue liner for the Canucks. In the box, another 35 seconds. Beach is going to get there ahead of Fitzpatrick. Krychek is taken down by Clark. Beach finding Hewitt. Cross rink for Green. Keep it on the outside. Pettinger waits off of a 20-goal year last year. Good look, Green. Fires that hit trouble. Backhander in front. And it is Luongo with a stop in the cover.
And he had to cover there because if you notice out there, no stick for Rory Fitzpatrick, the defenseman. He lost it behind the net, which made it good for the Caps to hold it at the point.
Starting to see the Caps work it better. That power play was struggling, as you see at the outset, but starting to heat up now.
Yeah, the last 3 games, over 36%. Those are good numbers. I asked Richard Zednik why the difference, and he said, number 1, it was puck control. Number 2, it was puck recovery. They weren't puck recovering very well early on in the season. They have been the last 3 games.
Shots on goal right now are 17-3. Yes, I said 3 for the Washington Capitals. And we played 26 minutes of regulation time. Matthias Olin racing back with Bulis. Bulis fires through the screen and wide. Olin content to play it to the corner. Bounce right to Bulis, and Kolzig challenge.
Bulis is getting some nice bounces because he's weaving and he's skating. That's his 4th or 5th shot he's had against Ole Kolzig.
Jan Bulis now 7 goals in 14 games in his career against Kolzig. Bulis, board to board, walking in. Morrison to the front, looking for the deflection of Naslund, and he could not redirect, but the Caps put it off the rink. This is delay of game. 6 minutes and 39 seconds into period 2. The Caps are shorthanded. When you're back on Comcast Sportsnet.
Well, what's new, Caps fan? Another power play upcoming for Vancouver. Bulis rink wide to Morrison. Shot in front of the net. It's going to be a hook for Jamie Hewitt. The slap of the puck over the glass. But fans, that's not a delay of game, because once you touch the puck, the play is over. The initial call was on Hewitt, so the Caps still play 5-on-4.
Morrison and Sotheby on this draw. Control for Vancouver in the retro blue sweaters. The old school logo out there.
I like them.
The players seem to like them too. Wouldn't be surprised if this becomes the regular sweater before too long. Naslund's wrister deadened by Morrison. Olin did not keep it in.
Speaking of sweaters or jerseys, there's word out of Toronto and the Players Association that next year the players will have to wear more fitted jerseys, and each team will be allowed to have just 2 sets. No third jerseys anymore.
This retro look is the 3rd jersey for Vancouver. Clark racing back. Bieksa keeps him to the outside. The Caps in the white jerseys, shorthanded. And now Clark will play 4 corners with Ben Clymer. If you're just tuning in with us on Comcast Sportsnet, Joe Beninati teamed up with Craig Laughlin here at GM Place. 2-0 for the Canucks. Jan Bulis and Taylor Pyatt on the board. Bradley wide with a step. And Luongo got the paddle down there.
And that was a pretty ugly slide by the defenseman coming back on the play. Matthias Olin took himself right out of the play and ended up behind the net.
Taylor Pyatt in a shoving match with Eminger. Clymer trying to pitchfork it free. He does. Salo cheating in from the point. Daniel Sedin back for Salo. Daniel Sedin once again. Salo one-timer, pad save. Huge rebound. Krychek was camped out in front. Pyatt taps it. Henrik finds twin Daniel. Salo off the outside of the bar. Did that have some heat on it?
Does he ever get ready? The big thing there is he puts everything behind it, his arms, his legs, and everything.
Henrik Sedin puts some sauce on that, looking for the redirect. Morrison gets up in the face of Daniel Sedin. Action heating up here at GM Place. 2-0 for the Canucks. Bieksa puts it along the wall. Sotheby trying to get it out with the help of Rico Fata. Morrison didn't get it over the sprawled Henrik Sedin. Fans here encouraging the Canucks to come up with it out of that scrum. Washington will. Moving towards the midway mark of regulation time with Washington on the road and trailing by 2. This evening in Vancouver, tomorrow at Rexall Place, where the Oilers can be very difficult to beat.
And they're probably going to be not too happy since they lost last night to Wayne Gretzky's Phoenix Coyotes.
Defending Western Conference champs play host to the Caps tomorrow. Luc Bourdon out of his own zone for Cook. In stride to Kessler, bounced away. Quick counterattack. Ovechkin stumbles at the line and put himself offside. Bourdon again for Cook, slithering his way into the corner. Hofftier up in arms with him. Clymer guns it around the boards, but not out. Shot counter already at 21 for Vancouver. Ole Kolzig was extremely strong in the last 5 minutes of the first to keep it just 2-0. Fitzpatrick too high. Olin right on. Bad save. Another one on the rebound chance. Kolzig fighting for it. At the goal line, it squirts wide.
And there's sticks and bodies flying everywhere.
Ovechkin thundering his way into Olin, managed to get it on back.
Caps have been hemmed in way too often in this hockey game, and because of that, they don't have any energy whatsoever to mess up and muster up an attack against Vancouver.
The 130th straight sellout crowd here at GM Place, and they are seeing an ice sheet that is tilted for Vancouver. Beach over skates. Burrows gets it out. Burrows on the fly with Chouinard, 2-on-2. That was rejected by Green. Krejcik keeps it moving. Green on patrol, able to play it along the glass and back on to the Vancouver side. Fitzpatrick in the foot race with Semin. Ow! Fitzpatrick goes to the boards. Brashear comes up with it, and it's padded away by Luongo.
That just shows you how strong Alexander Semin for the Caps is. He's big and strong. Fitzpatrick is also.
Fitzpatrick's in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
He does not have his full faculties. As he makes his wobbly way to the bench. We'll have more in period 2 after this. Looks like Vancouver's going to try to protect a 2-goal lead, -1 defenseman.
Yeah, he took a heavy hit into the wall, and here it is, full speed. Watch this. He tried to hit Semin first, and he got the worst of it. It's a good sign here, though, that he ran into the boards with his leg. I thought it could have been a concussion, but his left ankle buckled as it hit the back wall behind Luongo.
You could tell he was very gingerly and slowly making his way down the runway tunnel. Alexander Semin with points in 8 straight games.
Comcast Sportsnet coverage of Capitals hockey is being brought to you by Geico. A 15-minute call could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by Pulte. Exceptional homes and outstanding experience. Ask about their 7-step process and visit them at Pulte.com. The cast and crew of Comcast Sportsnet has enjoyed its time in Vancouver the last couple of days as we get set for Alain
for yourself.
and Mark. Oh, you haven't had a good time?
Oh, yes, I have.
I'm just checking. So then I was speaking for you.
Yeah.
What a troublemaker you are.
Marcus Naslund in the double figures in terms of points. The numbers have been in somewhat diminishing returns for Naslund, who is still has to be thought of as a premier scorer. 48, 35, and 32 goals the last 3 years. Poulos hooks it on back. Washington with just 6 shots on goal against Roberto Luongo. Quite a difference from, what, the 53 or so they put on him in one game last year at Verizon Center. Give and go Morrison. One more. Naslund, and he missed it.
One of the prettiest passing plays I've seen this season from a trio coming up ice. Just no finish right there. Naslund, for him, that's usually a layup, Joe.
Usually money in the bank. Naslund will be scolding himself for that one as Eminger chips it into the Vancouver bench.
We were watching him this morning, and he had a similar play, and he roofed it on the backhand. What a nice passing play, though. Remember, one of the keys, third man, where there was no third man. It was a 3-on-2. Morrison, an excellent pass there, and then the wipeout at the end by their captain. Good job by Ole, making sure he was aggressive on Marcus Naslund.
Big goal totals in the last half-dozen seasons. I guess leapfrogging Kolzig in the process makes it a little more difficult to tap that one home. Taylor Pyatt has one of the goals tonight, a snapshot that's right on for Kolzig.
The rebound pinballs to Sean Morrison, and he'll punch it back to center. Morrison. Oh, throttled by Hyatt. Bieksa serves it on back for Olin. His pass too strong. Icing is washed out. Kolzig will play it. Morrison is able to clear. Sean Morrison, who grew up on the Point Grey in the Point Grey area on the west side of Vancouver.
Played some minor hockey with the Vancouver Thunderbirds, South Surrey Eagles, and then went on to the Kamloops Blazers.
In defensive posture now against Green. Slap shot turned aside. Ryan Kessler marked by Dinas Zubris. Chris Clark plays the pass to himself and then gets smoked by Green. Back in comes Kessler. Fires. He didn't get it through the 5-hole there. Zubris on the send away for Clark. Ovechkin working with him. Chris Clark looking for number 8. Throws it into space, and that's gobbled up by Roberto Luongo. As Clark needs to be separated from a Vancouver defender. Fans, we hope you'll remember that season ticket plans are on sale now. Full season and partial plans available by calling 202-266-CAPS. Write that number down, or you can send an email to ticketsales@washcaps.com. Be on hand at Verizon Center for all the fun with Ole Kolzig and his gang. Kolzig getting some well-deserved refreshments and hoping that Alexander Semin can dent Roberto Luongo and the Canucks. It's 2-0 Vancouver. Boulis and Hyatt separated by less than 3 minutes back in the first. Heward's blazer is easily handled by Luongo.
And Luongo's so strong at pushing across there. Heward has a heavy, hard shot, but when Luongo saw the loss of the draw and it went D to D, he just kicked that left foot and moved across to get Jamie square on. Jamie's numbers so far. That last column is what you like to see for an offensive-minded defenseman. He's a +2 with the Caps.
Jamie Heward at the age of 35 still has that booming slap shot. You could make the argument it's the best point shot on the Caps team. Jacob Klepish carving his way out of the defensive territory. Green works wide. Good recovery there defensively by the teenager Bourdon, who will have to play more minutes now if Rory Fitzpatrick does not return. Richard Zednik turns the corner to his forehand, and Luongo has that secured.
Man, that right is tight underneath his pad. Richard Zednik, when I talked to him this morning, Joe, shaking his head a little bit because of the chances he's been getting, and he hasn't been able to finish. He wants something to happen in that first column. That can often jumpstart your season. He's worked hard, he's been diligent, he's been consistent, but he has not hit pay dirt, and there's that low coverage by Roberto Luongo.
Zednik coming back to Washington after 5 years in Montreal, and Glenn Hanlon knows that he was a 30-plus goal getter with the Canadians back in 03. Brashear, another former Canadian farmhand, back behind the cage for Krejcek. Deking away from one hit there. Beach takes it for Washington. The Capitals on the road in the white sweaters. The season-long road swing began in Denver with a win, now in Vancouver tonight. Naslund to Bieksa. Stick save Kolzig. Beach looking for the headman. Well done to Brashear. Walking in, a slap pass for Eminger, and he couldn't handle it cleanly.
That's the first Caps odd man break against Vancouver. They've been very solid with their third man. That actually was a 2-on-1 that turned to a 3-on-1. And Brashear sort of caught himself midway, I thought. Looked like he wanted to shoot, then he thought pass, and then nothing much materialized.
Zubris for Ovechkin. Ovechkin at the front, and there's a fight. Kevin Bieksa dropping the gloves with Chris Clark.
Well, Clark's been looking for it all game long. As the captain, you've got to pick your spots to try to jumpstart your team. Things are not going well for this Capitals team on the road. Someone has to change the mo, and it's Chris Clark, their leader.
Thank goodness that uppercut didn't land. 2-0 for Vancouver, north of the border. On Comcast Sportsnet, we've got stars on the ice and in the stands. Tori Spelling and Dean McDermott taking in this game in Vancouver, British Columbia tonight.
I thought that was Trevor Linden, but then again, he's playing.
He's busy.
Here's how the scrap started. Bieksa nailed by Clark. He goes back at him, and the two have a little do-si-do. Good scrap right there, and Clarkie, the captain, trying to change momentum. That means Vancouver now down to 4 defensemen for Coach Alan Vigneault.
Ovechkin's snapshot went wide. Luongo keeps the rebound behind the cage for a second. Zubris to the front, and that ricocheted right to the tape of Daniel Sedin. Angling back with Taylor Pyatt. Daniel Sedin matched up with Brian Pothier. Just over 5 minutes to go in the second period on Comcast Sportsnet Mid-Atlantic and Philadelphia. Good to have our Philadelphia viewers on board with us tonight.
Wow, high stick behind the net, Joe.
Down in a heap. Ovechkin trying to come to the inside on Krejcik as Daniel Sedin remains on the ice.
You can hear that all the way up here. It smacked right on his shield that he wears over his eyes, and might have kabonged him above the nose also. I mean, you could hear that whack of the stick. It was Zubris and the D that got tangled up, and one of the sticks came down hard on Sedin.
Daniel Sedin taking his time as twin brother Henrik takes his place on the bench.
Got it right across the chops, underneath the mask there, Joe. Here it is behind the net. Watch Dinas Zubris work down low. Watch the stick come up from behind. There's the stick.
Almost right. Sticking a headbutt more than anything. And Daniel Sedin in need of repairs on his way back to the Vancouver bench. 4:45 to go in the second period. With Vancouver out shooting the Caps 27-11, we give you another look.
Whoa.
Ow. Face off in the offensive zone for Washington. Jamie Heward on it. Cook scissors him to the glass. Pettinger. Poke check by Cook. Bradley looking to help. Pettinger was held. Washington will have a power play here.
Nice work by Matt Pettinger behind the net, working behind Luongo and trying to shake away. The key there is moving your feet when a defenseman is on you. He did just that, drawing a penalty. Watch the play behind the net. There's a little work with Bradley. Watch Bourdon right there. Behind, there's that left arm. Just enough for the jersey in the paw of his hand. Number 4 for Van. See you later. 2 minutes holding.
This all comes after Bieksa and Clark were given matching majors for fighting. So now the New York Islanders are the only team in the NHL without a fight. Washington and New York came into tonight's action without having been assessed a 5-minute major. Ovechkin and Zubris and Zednik across the top. Semin and Pothier in back. Power play number 3 for Washington and White. Alexander Ovechkin. A little one-touch passing play with Zednik that didn't connect. And then a hand pass against the Capitals.
And that's a real good call. Ovechkin doesn't like it, but he was the first to touch that hand pass from the defenseman. And it's a good call by the linesman. Semin says, I thought Vancouver touched it. I didn't think they did. Face-off comes out to the dot.
Alexander Ovechkin, who cashed in on a power play in Denver. On Wednesday, the Caps have power play goals in 3 straight games. Alexander Semin riding that 8-game point streak. It matches the one that Alexander Ovechkin began his career with a season ago. Burrows gives it a whack. Chouinard is there to help, and he'll clear. 4 minutes away from a Pulte Homes intermission report on Comcast Sportsnet. Semin finds Zubris. Collected there by Linden. Ovechkin with Fitzpatrick back on the ice. A wonderful pass. Zednik squashed by Luongo.
And there's going to be another penalty here, a hook. So the Caps will have plenty of time here. And it may be Olin heading back, so they still only have 3 defensemen with Fitzpatrick back. The Caps have a $1.19 on a 5-on-3. This will be the game-changing play, to me, in my estimation. With under 4 minutes left to go, this is a time you have to do some damage. So the Caps, with a big 2-man advantage, a timeout being called.
So Glenn Hadlin will gather the guys around, talking some shop. Matthias Olin finds himself in the box And the 5-on-3, as Craig mentioned, will last for 119.
And wow, wouldn't it be nice to get a goal here for the Washington Capitals and momentum? They've been badly outplayed. They've been outshot 27-12, and they could go to the locker room within a goal in the third, and that's good if you're playing on the road like this.
Glenn Hanlon, who spent yesterday crawling around in the crawl space in Point Roberts' cottage, Columbus and LA, as we continue with more. 2-0 for the Blue Jackets. Pascal Leclerc was just great. Minnesota gets the jump on Anaheim in a shootout. Ryan Ralston had one of the tallies.
How good Minnesota been?
They're very good. They're extremely good. That's an understatement. And Detroit, better than Dallas at American Airlines Center. Strategy has been set. It's just a 2-0 advantage for Vancouver, despite really owning the territorial side of this game. And the shots on goal story just as well. Salo put that off the rink, but since it didn't go over glass, it's not delay of game.
Sammy Salo, one of the fine defensemen. Last year, if you remember, he was a little bit nicked up, and he was certainly a guy that was really missed. He had a shoulder muscle tear. It happened at the Olympics. He tried to come back. Really didn't struggle a little bit, but he still had 33 points. 10 of those goals, a lot from bombs from the blue line.
Ovechkin's at one point now with Pothier. Keeping an eye on Zubris is Krejcik. Pothier, Zubris looking to stuff. Luongo shuts it off. Rebound at the post. And his long legs kept it away from Pettinger. Ovechkin, Semin playing the two-man game. Pothier for Ovechkin, blocked by Kessler. Follow-up, score! Dinas Zubris.
Just what the doctor ordered. Well, one of the deal come out with 44 seconds left. The 126 will stay up. Good job by the Caps. It's a lucky play because it goes off the defender and goes right to Dinas on a sharp angle. Watch this ricochet. Here it comes, working the point. There's the slap shot off the top guy, goes right to Zubris. And here's a look on the reverse angle. Watch this, right side of the screen. Look at the sharp angle that Zuby has to shoot that. It ricocheted right to his stick. Just had to go with the shooting motion to beat Luongo.
Craig, explain to the youngsters who may be staying up very late watching this game how difficult it is or what they can do to be able to cradle a puck that hits their stick so quickly. Dinas was able to soften that up in an instant.
Well, you talk stick preparation, but you've also got to get your body in the right position. And for a one-timer, which that really was after he cradled it, it's just catching it on the stick and letting her fly, but it all comes down to stick position and body position to shoot a puck like that.
He wasn't startled at all when that redirected right to his tape. And Washington cuts Vancouver's lead in half. Linden barreling in, deflected by Pothier. Off the glass, it sends Richard Zednik away. It's 3-on-2 if they step on it. Zednik working wide. Bourdon is there. Beach for Zednik. Semin, beautiful pass. Ovechkin creating out of the corner. Alexander Ovechkin slides for Zednik. Washington still a man up. Luongo stop. Beach and the follow-up. And Roberto Luongo preserves the lead.
Now, Richard Zednik, an innocent-looking shot. This was poor puck preparation by the goaltender, Luongo. He laid it right back out onto the stick of Beach, and Beach couldn't believe it. I think his eyes just widened up, and he said, wow, I've got this puck all by myself. What am I going to do with it? He gets it, and he shoots it right into the belly of the crest of Luongo. He didn't have much room, but over that left shoulder was some space over the catching glove.
Semin walks in, took too long to deliver that shot. Chris Beach, born in Salmon Arm, British Columbia, grew up in Sicamous, about 4.5 hours away.
Pardon me?
I said Sicamous. Cook spun around.
Salmon Arms, they have a junior A team there in the Western Hockey League, possibly even in the BC League, and one of those teams out there, I think it's the BC League, owned by Andy Murray, the former coach of the Los Angeles Kings.
Ryan Kessler for Vancouver looking to exit the zone. Bradley, other ideas. Sotheby in front. One more. Score! Alexander Ovechkin, and it's tied.
Well, that's the difference on a power play. You score a power play, and all of a sudden you get some momentum. The fans knew Ovechkin was coming to town. It's been the talk of town. It's been a buzz. Well, he shows them what type of stuff he has. His 6th goal of the season. What wonderful vision by Brian Sotheby. A lot of guys are going to bury their heads. Sudsy looks like he's going to deke, but then throws a layup across. Ovechkin comes in after taking the hit. Nice isolation of Ovechkin driving the net, and an even better pass in my estimation by Sotheby. What a beauty.
Alexander Ovechkin continues his point and goal scoring streak. The Capitals, with a couple of tallies in 1 minute and 33 seconds, have equalized the count in Vancouver on Comcast Sportsnet. Pettinger puts it to center, and Bradley will clear it in. Sotheby arm in arm with Fitzpatrick. Brian Sotheby knifing through the defense. Morrison comes to call on him, and Boulis will fly away. Morrison looking for Naslin. It was behind him as we drift into the final minute of the second period. Boulis from zero angle. Morrison stopped in his tracks by Zubris. Naslin working the cycle game. 40 seconds to go in period 2. 2 late second period tallies by the Caps, completely changing the look of this contest. Boulis fires. That was weakened by Zubris off the rink.
Dead tired were they. Good pressure by Boulis down low against Hanlon's team, but you got to be happy for Hanlon. They stuck to their game plan. An awful first period. The second period halfway through wasn't looking any brighter, and all of a sudden you get a power play, and that's the difference in this game. All of a sudden you feel good about yourself. They're going to go into the locker room presuming a 2-2 draw.
Henrik Sedin digging in there, bending to the task to win the draw for Vancouver. Daniel Sedin back on ice after taking that bump in the mouth. Ovechkin fights it back to center. Ovechkin from Sotheby at 18:22. Zubris is 5th from Ovechkin and Pothier a minute and a half earlier. And we are even. A send in for Ovechkin, turning the corner to the backhander. He was hauled down. Salo's on his way to the penalty box. They got Ovechkin too for the dive.
Yeah, he embellished that a little bit, and that's what Salo wanted on that play. Ovechkin driving the paint will get that dive, and unsportsmanlike, so we'll have 4-on-4 hockey for the last 8.6. But real power going to the net. Ovechkin asking for an explanation.
And referee Brad Watson not giving him one.
Here it is, real speed coming off the wall. Watch the indirect pass. Look at him get a step, and he takes it right to the net, lowering the shoulder. Then he's just grabbed a little bit and spun around. He makes sure he embellishes it. He drew the penalty, but he also sits for that embellishment.
If he falls flat, that's one thing, but he gave it a little bit of the twist. And that's what lands him in the box.
We got actors and actresses in town tonight, don't we?
Don't we ever? 2 periods done in Vancouver, and all of a sudden this game, which was one-sided for a while, has become very, very interesting. Alexander Ovechkin, the last man on the board, and the Caps march their way to the dressing room. Now 2-2 with the Canucks. Our Pulte Homes intermission reports coming up. Comcast Sports Desk will clue you in. The St. Louis Cardinals have won the World Series. Locker will team up with Matt Pettinger for an interview. Stats and highlights are coming your way in a matter of moments. At GM Place tonight, the Washington Capitals have fought their way back. It's 2-2 through 2, and the Pulte Homes intermission report begins in Bethesda with Dave John. This is the 80th all-time meeting between the Caps and the Canucks. Washington leads the all-time series, and they darn near lead the hockey game tonight, rallying back from 2 in the second period. Dainis Zubris and Alexander Ovechkin on the board. This is the Pulte Homes intermission report. It continues with Craig Laughlin and Matt Pettinger.
And Matt, Jekyll and Hyde game for you, your hockey club. First period, I called it awful. Second period, much better. What was the difference?
Well, you nailed on the head. We were pretty awful in that first period. We just kind of just shell-shocked. They came at us pretty hard. But in the second, we just said, you know what, guys, we got to get the puck in deep, play simple, and get some shots. We stayed out of the box, and obviously we got some power plays.
A lot of the team and your teammates from Western Canada, this is your first visit here. You told me this morning you were a little nervous. What's it like coming back and playing out west?
Well, it's just exciting. You know, I've never been out here in my 6 years of pro, and you know, I've probably got about 75 to 100 people that have come over from Victoria, to watch the game. So you always want to play well, and I kind of grew up, watching the Canucks, and it's a great place to come back to.
Now, the big buzz around town was Alex Ovechkin. Now, we showed a little clip in the first period. I want to ask you about your arts and crafts work as you watch this roll in here. Now, when did you have time to do that? You're speechless actually, for the first time?
That's my best friend's girlfriend. She said she was going to make a sign, and there it is.
Well, we had it right away. What do
awesome.
we expect for the third period?
Hopefully more the same. We just got to stick at it. I think we're wearing them down a little bit, and they've had some long trips long games on the road, and I think we've set ourselves up in good position for a good third.
Well, Petty, you're not number one up here yet, okay?
Thanks a lot.
Best of luck in the third.
Thanks, bud.
All right, Matt Pettinger, our guest through 40 minutes. Stick around, a lot more stuff right around the corner on Comcast Sportsnet.
The Vancouver Canucks have played 11 games already. 8 of them have been decided by 1 goal, Locker. They've won 4, they lost 4, and they look like they're headed for another nail-biter with the Caps this evening. As we continue with more of our Pulte Homes intermission report, just about getting set for the third period. Locker, the head coach for the Caps, is Glenn Hanlon, and he has played some pretty good goal for himself in this city in the past.
Yeah, he's right up there when you look at wins, 4th overall in Vancouver Canucks history. Can't believe they lifted weights back when he played. We actually did the odd time. I like the old bike there. How about against the Hawks? Some nifty saves, stand-up style. Took a little bit of time to get up, however, eh?
Come on, give him a break. Watch
Murray.
this one.
I know, Murray sneaking in, the former GM. Nice little save, and the sprawling angel, the snow angel.
And then his first NHL shutout against the Blackhawks. It happened to be Bobby Orr's last competitive NHL game.
And he does have that puck with his child at home.
Glenn Hanlon has brought his team back to the bench for the start of play tonight. On a Friday around the NHL, 3 other games have gone to their final. We are awaiting who will be the winner tonight for the Caps and the Canucks, as we see Glenn Hanlon's resume here in Vancouver as a player.
And there you look at his numbers, 43, 66, and 21. Played here 77 through 82. Played over at the Pacific Coliseum.
The rink on Renfrew. He was an assistant coach for the Canucks as well. In the formative stages, we saw him working with Matthias Olin when Olin was a baby in the NHL. Marcus Naslund came to town via Pittsburgh right around the time Glenn was here as well.
Not only the pro team in town, but the Vancouver Giants in town, and Caps fans will remember this name. Yogi Sveikovsky was just last week named an assistant coach under Don Hay in the WHL franchise of the Vancouver Giants.
A number of Caps fans in attendance here at GM Place in Vancouver as we're underway in the third. The fan club's here, the road crew is here, all hoping to see the Caps complete this comeback. Daniel Sedin right on in, and Kolzig makes a sparkling stop in the period's first 30 seconds.
The D-man just took the offside. That was Morrison, which allowed Sedin clear sailing. Couldn't lift it up and over the right pad.
Pothier spun around by Daniel Sedin. Henrik hiding behind the cage. Chisels one to the front. Pothier didn't get it clear. Bieksa out at a point position for Vancouver. 4-on-4 for another 60 seconds. Semin swarmed there by Daniel Sedin, and then Semin was injured. Olin fires looking for the deflection, and the Caps will get it out.
Yeah, Semin caught a high stick, tried to draw a penalty for high sticking. The referee didn't buy into it.
Dinas Zubris and Alexander Ovechkin have the tallies for Washington if you're just tuning in with us on Comcast Sportsnet. Boulis and Pyatt for the Canucks in a dominant first period, as Kolzig shrugs another one aside, this one off the blade of Fitzpatrick. Naslund, who has led this team in scoring the last 7 years, throws it to the front. Clymer on the intercept. Pettinger wide. Erased there by Fitzpatrick. Lucas Krajicek trying to dig it loose. Rick Bowness, the assistant coach for Alain Vigneault, called Krajicek the most pleasant surprise for Vancouver in the first month.
And you would think he was a throw-in in that deal.
The one that brought Luongo to town from Florida. Naslund circling in, and a penalty call coming here against Washington. Naslund pulls the trigger, deflected by Sotheby. Luongo's on the bench. It's An extra attacker for Vancouver. Naslund hooks it off for Oland. Right back to his Swedish Olympic teammate. A backhander that went wide. Green still with it. 6-on-5 for Vancouver until Washington gets possession. Bieksa hands it off for Oland. Through the screen, deflected down by Kessler, and Kolzig got a whisker of that as the Caps go shorthanded.
That was a great stop by Ole Kolzig, or there wouldn't be a power play upcoming. What a stop with that right pad. Kessler all over Kolzig in the crease and made that deflection.
Locker, in your playing days, give me a netminder who is as big a presence as Ole Kolzig.
I'd have to say Tony Esposito. He comes to mind because he used those big illegal pads and he came out and challenged, and he was one of those guys that really maybe it started the butterfly as you look at the hooking call to Matt Pettinger.
Pettinger got the stick up. Vancouver in the retro jerseys, those throwback uniforms in the dark blue. Daniel Sedin steps right to the crease. Kolzig able to hold the post just long enough. Joe Beninati and Craig Laughlin with you. A shout out of thanks to all the men and women in our technical crew working here at GM Place in Vancouver, British Columbia. Henrik Sedin leaves it for Salo. Watch out for Salo now with that hard shot in the third period on the power play. Although he'll check out now for Alain Vigneault. A handheld look at Krajicek on the interchange with Bieksa. Setting foot at center with Naslund deking to the inside. Nice combination play. Kolzig to stop. Morrison's rebound didn't get through. Boulis was trying to beat his old friend again. There he is, parked in front. Bieksa on the outside. Oland shaded by Sotheby. Eminger rotates out to pressure Naslund. Morrison's speed was blocked, and that will chase the Canucks back out to neutral.
Naslund still checking his right skate to see if he can use that curve as he tries to arc on the ice. It looks all right because he didn't go off.
May need to get that edge sharpened as Rico Fata sends it on down. Washington scratching tonight healthy. Defender Brian Muir, and up front Boyd Gordon and Brooks Like. The numbers game for those guys. They can't get into the active lineup as the Caps try for their 4th win of the year. Vancouver in pursuit of its 7th. 5 of those 6 wins for the Canucks coming on the road. The busiest road month of October in Vancouver's franchise history. Bieksa scales it in. Heward's going to get there first. Rip it around the turnstile and clear.
And he had to rip it around, and then he got drilled, and he's woozy going to the bench for the Caps. He really got hit by that D-man who joined the rush.
We have seen a number of rock-solid collisions in this game. Alexander Ovechkin has a goal and an assist. Pettinger's out of the penalty box. Vancouver is now 1 for 6 with a manpower advantage. And just 2 for its last 23. Eminger headman looking for Donald Brashear. It went on by. Fitzpatrick's going to win the race. Brashear with a good lift check, and he thought the linesman blew that play dead a little early.
And there's a big look at Donald Brashear, longtime Vancouver Canuck, a big fan here in Vancouver, loves to come back, spend some time here, but certainly a big addition to this Caps team. Make sure everybody stays pretty even on the ice. As you take a look at Heward, still woozy on the bench. He took that hard hit by Bieksa, who came in on the rush, who joined it from the black line of the Vancouver Canucks.
Off this draw, Salo is teamed up with Luc Bourdon. Kolzig makes another stop, and then Kessler jammed the rebound wide. Donald Brashear didn't get it out. Kessler takes over. Fires off the shin pad of Steve Eminger. Eminger guides it on the boards. Bourdon able to stave off that breakout. Clymer worked over by Kessler. Bourdon lets it go. It's swallowed up in front by Zubris. And he'll skate it to safety with a beautiful pass. Ovechkin's in, and a diving Bourdon makes a wonderful play.
Sounds like a fine wine, doesn't he? Well, that was a fine play.
The chant is Luke. Kessler double teamed along the boards. Brashear waiting for Burrows to get into the corner with him. Green has some time.
They're going to have some tough decisions, as do a lot of NHL teams, of young players playing well and their inability to send them back to the minors after 9 or 10 games, which means they carry through on their first year of their contract.
Bieksa Looking after Zednik's stop attempt. Simmons' follow-up, too, was stopped by Luongo. Just a few moments ago, it looked like Ovechkin was in. Until 4 in the blue sweater took over.
Luc Bourdon, nice play. Watch Ovechkin. He has a step on him. Look at him try to lower his left shoulder in right here. But he gets the puck before Ovechkin can pull it across his body. Excellent play by that guy. As a 9-year-old, the guy that just forced Ovechkin, he was forced to use a wheelchair, Joe, because he had juvenile arthritis, had to stay off ice, a game that he loves so much, for over a year.
Really?
It's a real good story that he's made it now to the National Hockey League as a 19-year-old.
First-round draft pick back in the summer of '05. That's when Sidney Crosby went #1. Bourdon was number 10. Boulis finding Naslund. Naslund overskates. The Canucks do those combination passing plays very, very well at the attacking blue line, although that one got a little muddy.
It got muddy, but I tell you what, Morrison was wide open. If he could have controlled that Naslund, Morrison was so wide open, no one knew he was on the other side of Kolzig.
Another big collision. That one sends Clymer down to the deck. Compliments of Jan Boulis. Boulis and Taylor Pyatt have struck for Vancouver. Ovechkin and Zubris for the Caps. Pettinger is in. A weak drive answered by Luongo as Pettinger was crowded on his release. Sotheby, who set up the Ovechkin marker, tables it back behind the goal. Pettinger trying to fight through the wash. Daniel Sedin won't give him any room. Salo on for twin brother Henrik. Sedin. The two Sedins are with Taylor Pyatt. That line has been clicking for Alain Vigneault. Eminger turned it over. Kolzig says, let's chill out for a while. We've played 7 minutes and 17 seconds of the third. Still even at 2. 2-2 in Vancouver on Comcast Sportsnet. Donald Brashear's played 15 seasons as a pro. Locker parts of 6 with Vancouver in a memorable incident back in 2000.
It certainly was. It was a black mark in the NHL right there for Marty McSorley when he hit Brashear over the head with his hockey stick coming out of the zone. He was a loss for many, many months. Donald Brashear has made his livelihood playing a rough, tough style, and that's the style of game it's been tonight. That's been all knocked out of the NHL. Marty McSorley, that was a black day in Vancouver when that happened.
Just an ugly incident. As Matt Cook is on ice right now with Ryan Kessler and Josh Green. This one leaves the rink. Let's reset for you. 12:27 to go in the third period of play on Comcast Sportsnet Mid-Atlantic and in Philadelphia. We are past the witching hour back home on the East Coast. Alexander Ovechkin has a goal and an assist, and for the moment, the game-tying tally, which came late in period number 2.
So Philadelphia, I guess all the Philadelphia fans all happy now. Start of their new era under their new coach, John Stevens, Craig Berube, the former Cap, Murray, the former Cap, Terry, the former Cap coach. A lot of youngsters in the lineup in their shootout victory over Atlanta last night.
What'd you think of that Kari Lehtinen switcheroo in the shootout?
Well, obviously he was cold. Had he stopped all three, I would have said, what a great move.
Jan Boulis moving down the wing. Alexander Semin was gimpy on his way back to the bench. Naslund from the sharp angle turns the corner. Marcus Naslund takes it for a ride. Morrison staked out there by Eminger. Boulis works the corner, gets a little rub play, a little pick. Eminger with Boulis. Another screen set by Morrison. And finally, the Caps short-circuit that cycle. Easy for me to say.
And the reason Brashear's on the ice is Semin got creamed at the boards. He's still on the bench. He's had a tough game for the Caps. He's been knocked around by this Canucks team tonight.
I agree. Brashear with that good wrister that caught the glass. Henrik Sedin charging out of his own zone. Daniel Sedin next in line, Pyatt. Henrik fires, that's deflected, and Kolzig didn't see it as it landed in the corner. Almost 9 minutes deep into the third period in a 2-2 game. Washington being outshot 34-19. Pothier off the glass. Ovechkin in stride. Sharp angle head high. Canucks wanted the whistle, and this one glanced off the glass. As Alexander Ovechkin's running mate, Alexander Semin, got cleaned out pretty good.
Watch him along the boards right here. There comes the deed. Notice he was looking down to try to gather up the puck, and that was Rory Fitzpatrick, who left the game in the first period after he was hit by Semin down low. Well, he had payback there on his mind. Caught him with a good shoulder to the chops.
Former MVP of the Russian Elite League playoffs, Alexander Semin, at the tender age of 22 now, in his second full season in North America. Russian-born winger has been super in the first month. He's been quiet tonight. Luongo kicks it into that corner. Cook is there. Little drag, and away come the Canucks. It's Kessler and Green, 2-on-2. Ryan Kessler cut from behind by Bradley. Mike Green is there for Washington, no relation to Josh for Vancouver. Canuck fans unhappy. They wanted a penalty call. They'll get one now.
And that's going to be a slew foot or a trip, whatever way they call it. Caps are going to go short-handed here at the 10:23 mark. Good pressure by Vancouver. They have a lot of get up and go here in the third.
And we remind you that this Comcast Sportsnet coverage of Capitals hockey is being brought to you by Toyota, where you will find the ride of your life. Toyota, moving forward.
Well, Matt Bradley made a splendid play coming up the ice defensively, but then he got tied up down low with the same guy, Joe, and he knocked his feet out from under him. Watch down low. There's a little play by Green, and there comes Bradley like a guided missile, upends him. He'll have a seat for tripping.
Bieksa and Olanen back in the blue sweaters for Vancouver. Morrison, Naslund, and Boulis up front. Penalty killers for Washington in the white. Clark and Fata. Morrison and Pothier protecting Kolzig. Another sturdy effort from Godzilla here in Vancouver. Bieksa to Oland. On the outside for Naslund, who already has 3 power play goals this year. Pothier clears. Oland takes the quick up from Luongo. Powerful skater strides in and sets up shop. Morrison keeps it moving. Boulis plays it back. Almost 19,000 watching this one tonight at GM Place. Another sellout. On the interchange for Naslund. That bid was partially blocked, and Pettinger launches it.
It's one of the few games I've seen Marcus Naslund not handle the puck well, Joe. It seems to be bouncing. It's hitting him in the wrong spot. He's wiping out. He's not having good edges. It's not been a good game with a puck for Marcus Naslund tonight.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Krajicek fires. Kolzig got a little piece of it. He doesn't seem to have his best stick tonight. Clymer uses his to put it into the corner. Pyatt is there. 30 seconds shorthanded more for the Caps. Salo locked and loaded. Stop. Rebound. Krajicek. Sprawling save. Kolzig got over there and may have hurt himself. Ole Kolzig went full extension. Sedin finding Daniel. One more to the deep slot for Pyatt. Blocked by Eminger in good position, and Clymer will clear.
It's one of the best teams I've seen at the rewind, this Vancouver Canucks. It's just D to D and go. Luongo gets involved. If you're not sharp, they're going to burn you all the time with odd man rushes.
Goes to show how much the morning skate means as Kessler works in. Whoa, that was gorgeous. Kolzig made the stop at the goal line. Deep slot. Cook blocked away. The Canucks were not sharp in the morning practice whatsoever. They've looked a lot better tonight, and they're hearing it from their faithful. Ole Kolzig under all sorts of pressure, and still 2-2 in Vancouver. Ole Kolzig trying to put his name next to Ken Dryden's in the win list, and these saves were outstanding.
Yeah, real nice play from the defense to the forwards all around. How about Kessler undressing Eminger and getting a heck of a backhand that Ole had to sprawl for. During our break, he was flexing the whole time his left knee.
35 stops to this point, as the Capitals have been badly outshot by Vancouver. On the run, it's Cook with Kessler the trailer. Cook's bid didn't get through Heward, not yet at least. Alexander Ovechkin steaming down the wing. Ovechkin leaning into a rush with Chris Clark. Clark finding Zubris, point blank, and he missed it high and wide. Ovechkin cradled it right to the crease, and he missed the target. Canucks able to get it out. A couple nights ago in Denver, Kolzig made 45 saves against the Avalanche, the most he has ever authored in any victory of his career. He has been wonderful again tonight. Vancouver could have run away and hid with this game in the first period. Naslund jetting back. Naslund getting a little bit fancy with Eminger in tow. Semin strips. Jacob Klepish over skates. Morrison rolling back in again with Bulis. Bulis never got the handle. They tried to find Zednik behind the D, and behind the play, we've got a penalty call. And maybe more than one.
I think we're going to have coincidental minor penalties against Vancouver and the Caps. So 4-on-4, a lot of open ice upcoming, I would think.
Marcus Naslund getting the gate for Vancouver. Waiting to see who's guilty on the Washington side, if anyone.
It's going to be an unsportsmanlike call against the Caps. Here's Klepish right there. That's the dive. Naslund gets the hook. Klepish the dive. Or Semin the dive.
Alexander Semin comes over to the penalty box, and therefore it will be 4-on-4. As you see the penalties.
We haven't seen that too often, have we? Semin a dive, Ovechkin a dive in the same game?
I've seen Semin dive an awful lot in his young career. Brian Sotheby is out there for Washington. Sotheby a fine primary assist on the last goal that's on the board. That was the Ovechkin strike at 18:22. Since that time, the goaltenders have taken over.
And Semin's taken a beating in this game. He's hung in there and played tough hockey. That's his first minor of the season.
Washington Capitals tonight with Vancouver. Craig, tomorrow they'll be tangling with the Edmonton Oilers at Rexall Place. Vancouver's next game, they'll host Nashville here on Halloween. .7:01 to go in the third period. Folks, a reminder, please do join Sports Talk 980. You can cheer on the Caps. They take on the Atlanta Thrashers on the third. Stop by the 980 concourse table at section 108. Enter to win great prizes. Matthias Olin deliberately out of his own zone. Henrik Sedin on a crisscross with his twin brother. Daniel Sedin leaves the boards. Bieksa has space. Wrist shot stopped. Almost dribbled through Kolzig, but then he got it.
And that was no problem because he had stopped the thrust of that, and it just trickled there, and he knew he was going to gobble up. He looked very confident as he just reached back. Good play. 4-on-4, you have to just about play man-on-man, and notice Sotheby got caught too low. And because of that, the point man was wide open. There's the shot, and there's the gobble by Kolzig. Sneaking in front was Olin coming in from the point.
The Washington Capitals, their last win here, February of 2001. Salo with a rocket, armed aside by Kolzig. The Caps were a 4-3 winner in overtime that night. And this game is shaping up to be a real nail-biter down the stretch.
Wasn't Adam Oates the goal scorer?
Against Dan Kluche.
Yeah.
Ryan Kessler beaten on the draw by Dinas Zubris. Eminger, little head and shoulder fake. Clymer carries it through and then puts it into the Vancouver bench.
It's a look at Ryan Kessler along with Ben Clymer. Kessler probably pretty happy that Clarkey stuck around in Philadelphia an extra year and decided to step down just recently because Kessler was offered a huge contract by the Philadelphia Flyers. $1.9 million. That's about $90,000 a goal for what he got last year, and that was a surprise along many people in the NHL, and Clark took some heat for that, but he was hoping to get the youngster to sign in Philadelphia.
GM here, Dave Nonis, matched, and Ryan Kessler is the beneficiary.
And he said his play better match the money that I'm playing you this year.
Kevin Bieksa whirling into the offensive zone. Clymer lost his balance. Bieksa ran out of real estate. 4-on-4 for 50 seconds. Daniel Sedin and Matthias Olin bombs away and blocked again by Dinas Zubris. Zubris has been outstanding in this game. Daniel Sedin finding Henrik off the outside.
And that puck got rolling on Henrik. He thought he had the wide open net, but it rolled on him.
Henrik just picked up his first 2 goals in Vancouver's last win a couple nights back in Chicago. Olin rips it, and Kolzig makes the save, and that one stung. Ole Kolzig continues to smarten that crease late on Comcast. Locker on the plane ride to Edmonton. I think we know which leg Ole's going to have the ice on.
That left leg has been mangled here tonight. Here's that slap shot by Olin sneaking in there. A couple of minutes ago, he was flexing his left knee because of a collision in front and a scramble. Now he gets hit directly on the top of his knee between his pants and the top of the pads. And when you go down for a shot like that, it exposes an open area, and that's exactly where that Olin blast hit him.
39 tonight on the heels of a 45 save effort in Denver on Wednesday. The Caps practiced yesterday in Burnaby, BC, the home of Joe Sakic, whom they defeated back on Wednesday despite Super Joe picking up career point number 1,500. Daniel Sedin on the draw with Klepish. The Caps win it. Clark moving down the alleyway. Overlapping, it's Klepish. Lost it there to Daniel Sedin. 4-on-4 continues for another 15 seconds. This is the NHL on Comcast Sportsnet, Mid-Atlantic and Philadelphia. Joe Beninati and Craig Laughlin, the one and only get-together between the Caps and Canucks this season. Klepish on the take-back, working 2-on-2. Pothier jumping into the rush. Daniel Sedin pitched it, not out. Alexander Semin fresh from the penalty box. Collared there by Naslin. Even in full strength with 4:45 to go in the third. Mike Green off target. May work out just fine. Pettinger stopped in his tracks by Salo. Jan Bulis from glove to stick. On the passing combination play for Naslin. Naslin sent it wide. Lucas Krajcek for the Canucks. Naslin around Sotheby. To the front for Bulis, and he was marked by Eminger.
And that should have been an interference call. Morrison chopped the stick in half of Ben Clymer. That's an interference call that went undetected, Joe.
Brendan Morrison, of whom you speak, he has the puck now. Tremendous college player at the University of Michigan. Ovechkin comes back. Ovechkin, neat little move around Bulis. 1-on-4. The odds weren't there. Jan Bulis and his career in the Caps organization. He and Richard Zednik shared a home together in Crofton. Bulis said he missed visiting the D.C. area, loves the sushi in Annapolis.
There's a couple of good spots in Annapolis. I love the sushi down there. Always fresh and always fun to go out there.
Washington Capitals hockey on Comcast Sportsnet. Caps postgame live 2 coming up, as well as Sports Night. The St. Louis Cardinals are World Series winners. The Terps going up against FSU on the gridiron, and Navy hopes to end a very long losing skid at the hand of the Irish. Green ready to draw. Those just some of the topics the guys and gals have been working on back home. Late night on Comcast Sportsnet. Washington in the Canadian Pacific against Vancouver. Oland around the boards and back on out. Kevin Bieksa surveys the situation. If you're thinking along these lines, Vancouver has already won 3 times in sudden death overtime this year. Green moving in. Cook managed there by Heward. Alexander Ovechkin to the races with Pothier and Beach, and no further. Krajcek, who idolized Brian Leetch in his younger day.
Yeah, and his agent, a former NHL goaltender with the Toronto Maple Leafs, Yuri Sirha, who then went over to Europe, and now he's heavily involved in the agency business, with European players being most of his clients.
This is an icing call against the Capitals. Chris Beach from Sikamoose. Alexander Semin from far away in Russia. There's Beach, 4.5 hours away. He was not, I underline, was not a Vancouver Canuck fan growing up. Beach loved the Canadians and Stéphane Richer. Matt Pettinger admitted that he was a Canucks fan earlier in the day, and his favorite player is on the ice still, Trevor Linden. Ben Clymer for the Caps in the white sweaters here on the road. Second game of 4 straight away from D.C. Edmonton tomorrow, Calgary to conclude the trip. Daniel Sedin finding Henrik Sedin to the front. Hyatt was wrong-sided. Cello, he'll shoot it from anywhere.
Wow, you ever ripped that one?
Almost killed his teammate.
Yeah, look out.
2 minutes to go in the third. Oland carefully ran right into Pettinger. Pothier from glove to stick. Morrison. Naslin ripped, knocked down by Sean Morrison. He and Brendan of no relation. Bieksa trying to find Naslin in that seam. Boulis recovers. Sean Morrison on patrol defensively. He and Pothier have been out there an awful lot tonight. This is offside against Vancouver.
And Vancouver and Morrison and company still racking up the shots. They've now had 42 shots against Ole Kolzig. Alan Vigneault, though, his team, when you look at the top shooting teams around the NHL, they're right up there. Toronto came into tonight's game the only team that had more shots than Vancouver, and they were in 3rd place overall in the NHL.
Well, they've bludgeoned the Caps in that department tonight, 42-19. Just sensational net minding by Ole Kolzig. And then, if you're joining us late, a comeback effort in the second period, and all it took was about 3 minutes for Zubris and Ovechkin. A 5-on-3 power play goal, an even strength goal, and just like that, the Caps are involved in a close one in Vancouver. Clark, all-out effort. Bieksa takes over for Vancouver. 65 seconds to play in the third. Green launched it into the corner. Eminger and Zubris there to team up on Cook. Dinas Zubris, strong on his stick, able to get it down. The Caps will take the icing right here.
Dinas has had a strong game for the Washington Capitals, Joe. He's logged a ton of ice time, taking key faceoffs. And he's off and running this season. One of his best months ever in the month of October for Dinas Zubris. Here you look at his numbers. Best ever starts, 8 points in 7 games. This season, 8 points in 9. Last season, he had 7 points in 11 games. He's playing with a lot more confidence once he got some goals early on this year.
Dinas Zubris, that 97-98 entry from his days in Philadelphia. At one time, he was the youngest Flyer ever to wear the orange and black. Caps control the draw. Zubris doing the honors. The ricochet, though, is kept in. Naslin, wrister, secured by Kolzig, and they'll do it again in the face-off dot.
After 40 minutes, Naslin had just 1 shot on net, and that's not a stinging shot right there. It's just throwing it off his back foot and just flinging it on the net. Not the type of game you'd expect from Naslin. Although he's had the puck a lot, hasn't generated a lot of scoring chances for his line mates tonight.
4-time 30-goal getter, 3-time 40-goal getter. Marcus Naslin stuck on 5 in this first month.
Everybody will forget Stoyanov, right? Alex Stoyanov from Pittsburgh.
Best trade you've ever heard.
Yeah.
Right up there with a Pavel Dimitrov for Krister Olsson. There's Pyatt in tight. He jammed it wide. 25 seconds to go. Henrik Sedin and the Canucks trying to avoid overtime. Sean Morrison keeps him away. Daniel Sedin is occupied by Beach. Daniel Sedin looking to create. Little 2-man game with his twin brother. That wasn't a good pass. Sean Morrison will play it out. 4 seconds left. Olin's going to rock in on this one. A weak drive that's jabbed away by Kolzig. And to the extra time we will go at General Motors Place.
And it shouldn't be going into extra time other than Ole Kolzig and some misfires by Luongo's Hockey Club. Ole Kolzig has been up to the task tonight. Coming off a wonderful performance in Denver. No different tonight. This the best play at the end of the game. Wasn't even a shot on net. Pyatt misses that open net there, and I don't think Ole touched it on the way by. The puck has been bouncing like crazy in front of Ole Kolzig.
Ole was beaten twice in the first period by Jan Boulis and Taylor Pyatt. And then the Washington Capitals in the second frame were able to cash in twice late in the stands.
And it started on a power play, Joe, and it's a lucky play. Watch Ovechkin shoot left side of the screen, deflects off one of their defenders up front, and ricochets right to Dinas Zuber.
Just the second goal he's ever scored against the Canucks, and then Ovechkin took a beautiful pass from Sotheby.
And that all started from some wall work. The Caps have been diligent in how they've been working. The two goal scorers, Ovechkin in the background there, Dinas Zubris on the left. The Caps get another point on the road, Joe. But I'll tell you this, Ole Kolzig is going to have to be wrapped in ice, and because of his last two games, expect Brent Johnson to play tomorrow night in Edmonton. I expect to see Johnny.
Oh, I would think so. Brent Johnson, who earlier in the day in the morning skate took a shot in the collarbone up high near the throat. That was scary for a while, but he was able to finish the practice and almost assuredly will get the call tomorrow in a building he loves to play.
Oh, yeah, he loves it. It's exciting. The fans are crazy. They're on top of you. And Vancouver, plays a similar game, I would think, as Edmonton. They're both up-tempo hockey clubs.
Big stop totals for Kolzig in the third period in Denver, and he almost equally as much tonight. Alexander Ovechkin going against Roberto Luongo. These two teams have earned a point in the standings. Remember, in sudden death, we play 4-on-4. Vancouver has won 3 times in overtime this season. You can see the Caps have never lost in overtime against Vancouver. As we begin, Pothier and Morrison, Zubris and Ovechkin, 4 in the white for the Caps. The two Sedins up front for Vancouver, Oland and Bieksa at the points. Henrik Sedin, tied for second in the league in assists. Didn't connect on that pass. Sean Morrison working on back. Alexander Ovechkin turned away, and this is a 2-on-2. Henrik Sedin, 3-on-2 with Daniel. Give and go! Kolzig, marvelous glove save!
How did he get that glove up that high? That was going to the roof.
Krychek walks in. Daniel Sedin wanted the tip in. It didn't come. Dinas Zubris, a little nonchalant, able to get it out. A 10-bell stop from Kolzig in the first minute of overtime. Morrison scampering in. Brendan Morrison wide of the cane. Marcus Naslund shoulder to shoulder with Pothier, and the Caps are away. The pass for Rico Thada was behind him. Sammy Salo working through center. Salo had an overtime game winner against St. Louis. He's got 2 game-winning goals already this season. Does Salo from the blue line. Morrison tied up with Zednik. Brendan Morrison threw it back for Naslund, who was unsuspected. 90 seconds done in sudden death. The count is level at 2. Fata using the wall to make the pass to himself and threw it right through the crease. Luongo made sure it would go away. Ryan Kessler full blast. Look at Zednik get back on him. Sean Morrison playing in front of so many family and friends. Father John is up in the luxury suites. Both Morrison and Pettinger leased the luxury boxes from the Canucks so that their families could be in high cotton for this return to Vancouver.
And the Caps from their players wanted to make sure they got some extra time with their sons.
Mike Green rolling out of his own zone. Green has goals in his last 2 games. And one of them was a highlight reel marker. Eminger maneuvering in. Fans wanted to call. Clark lets it go! And Luongo makes one of his best on the night. Chris Clark chased by Rory Fitzpatrick. Pothier, long wrister off of Krychek, and it tumbles wide. Just over 2 minutes to go in sudden death on Comcast Sportsnet. The Caps and Canucks in a real good one. Josh Green moseying back. At the line offside is Jan Boulis.
Wow. Josh Green going up the ice with good speed, but Jan Boulis ahead of him expecting a pass, therefore the offside. Ole Kolzig at one end and Roberto Luongo keeping this game tied. Here's the shot right there coming in. Wonderful stop as the D-man snuck up, and then Eminger fires it across to Clark. That's a quickie butterfly with the right toe by Roberto Luongo.
Luongo has won 4 of his last 5 decisions. Really setting into a comfort zone, he says. Alexander Semin blisters one off of Bieksa. Follow-up for Zubris went wide.
We got a beach ball on the ice down there.
That's never a good thing. Henrik Sedin board to twin brother Daniel. Daniel Sedin just cruising down the slot. Made one extra pass.
They do look to pass rather than shoot more often than not.
Matthias Olin leaving it along the woodwork for Daniel Sedin. Daniel Sedin has an incredible shot. They wish he would take it more. Caps with a takeaway. Good work by Brian Pothier, who's logged a gazillion miles again tonight. Morrison for the Canucks.
The linesman finally got the beach ball into the penalty box.
Well done. Cleaning up the mess. Just over a minute to go in overtime. Naslund full throttle now. Brendan Morrison on the drop. Naslund fires. That's off of Eminger. Krychek keeps it deep. Brendan Morrison. Stutter step move. Krychek looking wide for Salo. Less than a minute to go in overtime. Eminger bodies Morrison. Naslund hooks it to the front, and Kolzig had his goalie stick ready. End to end, here comes Ovechkin. Salo took it away from him quickly. Brian Sotheby pitched it in. Glenn Hanlon wants the line change. Alain Vigneault doing just the same for Vancouver. A sellout crowd at GM Place has really enjoyed this one. 25 seconds away from the shootout. Bieksa finding Cook. Cook loads it up. Kolzig kicks it away. Cook, Kessler, four-man scrum. Cook emerges. Bieksa was open for a second. The pass never arrived. 8 seconds to go. Sean Morrison going to keep it to the outside. The lead for Clark. Not enough time to operate. We are going shootout in Vancouver.
Well, I'm dead tired, and so are those two big netminders. A net-minding exhibition here tonight in Vancouver. Hanlon versus Vigneault, Caps versus Canucks. What a beauty by these two teams. It looked like it was going to be all Vigneault's team, but then Hanlon's team stuck to their game plan.
Ole Kolzig in the third period and in the extra session, just brilliant.
Yeah, how about Morrison and Naslund hooking up? They've been really dipsy doing in passing. Long range, the gobble up, and the follow-up to boot, denied by the defenseman who came in on that rush.
Bieksa testing Kolzig, and he got that one just before the goal line.
Sedin, a great chance. Look at him look to the roof. The puck started bouncing on him.
So Ole Kolzig on the night with more than 40 saves. In the extra session, Kolzig just marvelous there on Daniel Sedin, or else these two teams would be heading for the hot water in the showers. The two netminders, Kolzig has been the far busier.
And they each get 3 more shots at least as we go to the shootout.
Tonight's Comcast Sportsnet coverage of Cavs hockey has been brought to you by Geico, where a 15-minute call could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by Del Webb, a leader in active adult living with locations now in Ashburn and Fredericksburg. Visit them at delwebb.com. Beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia on a Friday night. Glenn Hanlon knows this city very, very well. He and his mates have battled the Vancouver Canucks to a 2-2 draw through 65 minutes. So to the shootout we go. And we touched on this a little bit during the game. Craig, an evening ago, Bob Hartley for Atlanta. After Johan Hedberg, the Moose played admirably over 65 minutes. It was Coach Hartley for Atlanta against Philly that decided to go with Kari Lehtinen ice cold in the shootout.
That was interesting, but the interesting fact there is he knew Kari Lehtinen, I think, was 18 to 21 coming into the game. Hedberg had probably not been in a lot of those situations, so he elected to go with a bigger goaltender, although Hedberg played well. This won't be the case tonight with both these big netminders continuing to play.
Nice to see Glenn Hanlon breaking Alexander Ovechkin up. Ovechkin has had some worries, some difficulties in the shootout of late. Remember, the home team gets the chance to choose whether they wish to shoot first or second. Vancouver is going to go first, and it will be Daniel Sedin trying on Ole Kolzig for size. A shootout decision awaits in Vancouver. Daniel Sedin to the forehand, no.
And he can't believe it. Ole Kolzig stuck with, and the key for goaltenders is to outsmart the forward and not make the first move. Sedin made the first move. Ole Kolzig flashed out his right toe. Sedin couldn't get it up in short notice.
Matt Pettinger had good success a season ago in the shootout. This is just his second game on the season, so this year, this will be his first attempt, as you see, just over 40% effective last year against Roberto Luongo. Pettinger looks for the shot, and Luongo shuts him off.
He really did. He tried to shake him, bake him, and fake him to freeze the netminder, but Luongo very patient and aggressive. Here's the shot. He doesn't buy it. He was trying to go 5-hole between the pads.
Luongo is awesome in regulation penalty shots, not necessarily so in the shootout. We saw Minnesota beat him earlier in the year. One of the losses for Vancouver away from home. Marcus Naslund is set to go. Naslund looking to be the first on the board against Kolzig. And he is.
Well, that's a shifty move by the KG veteran. I was talking during the game that this wasn't one of his better games as far as puck control, but on a breakaway, the fake and the backhand to the roof, very similar to some of the deeks we saw this morning in their pregame skates.
The pressure falls to Alexander Ovechkin.
I thought they liked him here in Vancouver. They're booing him.
The majority of that 6 for 15. The majority of that success in the first handful of shots. Here he comes against Luongo. Ovechkin dekes to the forehand and hits the post.
And he had the wide open net. He is big-time snake bit, number 8 for the Caps. Look at Hanlon. He's just shaking his head. Hey, you had him, and you had him beat. Watch him come in. He had the goaltender down and out, the fake, the move, and the wide open net. It dinks right off that post.
So, Brendan Morrison has the game on his tape, as Ovechkin can only watch. Kolzig needs to make the stop to keep the shootout going. Brendan Morrison for the win. Stopped by Kolzig. No! It crawled in! It crawled across the goal line, and the Canucks win.
Then it's a forward motion of the puck, and the referee waited until the puck continued through the legs. Brendan Morrison tried to deke and went to the deke. A move used a lot in the NHL as he gets a face wash, and congratulations. I don't know if that's good or not, but watch this deke. This opens up the pads. The puck continues through. The motion is continuing, and it just does sit over the line.
And referee Steve Kazari was in perfect position to see it. Salutes from the Vancouver bench. Another sparkling performance by Ole Kolzig, and he vents some frustration on his way to being our Microsoft Player of the Game with 42 saves.
Just another spectacular performance by Ole Kolzig. He came to camp lighter and faster, and I think that's paid off, especially the last 2 games. You couldn't play any better goal than the Caps' Ole Kolzig.
So Vancouver continues to have its stranglehold over Washington. Marcus Naslund, one of the heroes, in a 3-2 shootout win on Comcast Sportsnet. Folks, be sure to join us again tomorrow on Comcast Sportsnet. The Capitals are continuing their tour through Canada. Next stop is Edmonton. The Oilers and the Caps with our coverage beginning at 10. Stay tuned for Caps Postgame Live. Al Koken and Joe Ricci are set in the studio. But first, here's an update from the area's sports leader.